I was going to start up by thanking the city of Woodbury for allowing us to be here. Jennifer McLaughlin, I think, is just kind of walking around somewhere right at this moment, but she'll be coming in, and I'll just take a moment to recognize her. Our, my organization, the Midwest Renewable Energy Association, is hosting this Solar Power Hour tonight under our Solar Twin Cities program. And along with me, I'd like to introduce Terry Cheney, Jim Hasnick from the Center for Energy and Environment. They're going to be here talking about the Home Energy Squad, and there's also information that Jim has regarding their financing programs. And then Victoria Barlow is with True North Solar. True North Solar is the contractor that is working with our program, Solar Twin Cities. So here's Jennifer. Again, I'd like to start off by thanking her for the cooperation in getting this event coordinated. And with that, what we start off, how this is going to work is I'm going to have Terry come up briefly, introduce the Home Energy Squad program to everyone. Then I'll take it back. I'll go through my Solar Power Hour presentation, review the program, and then we'll try to leave at least 15 or more minutes for questions and answers at the end, if that's all right with everyone. So with that, I will just have you take over, and there you go.
Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. And like Eric said, before we get into the deep dive on solar, just a quick reminder about the importance of energy efficiency. And so I'm Terry with the Center for Energy and Environment, and CEE has been helping homeowners and businesses save energy for about 40 years now. And we do that through research. We offer commercial programs and residential programs, engineering, lending, and public policy. And I do outreach with the residential program called the Home Energy Squad, and the residential programs are all housed, well, the main office is in downtown Minneapolis. The residential programs are mostly housed in St. Paul, right here off of University Avenue. And has anybody had the Home Energy Squad visit their house? Great. So it's the Home Energy Squad is a utility-sponsored program. So it's an Xcel and CenterPoint Energy program delivered by CEE staff. And so if you're an Xcel or CenterPoint customer, you're eligible to use the service. I'm guessing you're all from Woodbury, right? And Xcel customers? And so then I'll just quickly go through what you can expect during the Home Energy Squad program. So you make an appointment, and 2 CEE staff will visit your house. One called our counselor will install some energy-saving items around the house for you. So these are just kind of the low-hanging fruits. Products that we can install in about 2 hours that can help you save energy right away. So LED light bulbs, door weather stripping, programmable thermostat. The counselor will also kind of walk you through the process, answer your questions. We'll also send one of our energy auditors to your house to do the assessment portion, which involves the blower door test to measure how leaky the home is. We'll do the infrared imaging. We'll check your attic and your basement. And then when we're finished, we'll take all of that information and create the energy fitness plan for you, which is a customized report. It'll give your home a performance score, summarize the findings, and then make some recommendations for next steps. And we also, just within the last year, started doing insulation and air sealing quotes. So for those that are ready to get started right away, we will provide you with quotes, and then an Excel approved contractor will honor that quote if you want to start a project. And then we also have a team of energy advisors, and the advisors will help you after your visit answer any questions you might have about your report, about rebates, tax incentives, lending. They're just there to make the process a little bit easier for you. And that's all I have. So again, thanks for coming out tonight. And now I'll turn it back over to Eric, and you can learn more about solar power. Thank you. Oh.
So, do you want to mention just like how many appointments have been scheduled in Woodbury in the last few months? Just some promotion and letting residents know how about the program?
Yeah, Woodbury, the city of Woodbury has partnered with CE to promote energy efficiency in your city, and we've, I think, scheduled 100 or so visits in the last couple of months, and we've gotten a great response. Also, wanted to let you know that if you are interested, if you haven't had one and you want to schedule something, we do offer you a discount if you attend an event or a presentation. So there's a sign-up sheet out there. Just there's a little box you can check for us to follow up with you to get signed up. So great, thanks.
These questions now, or do you want to hold them to the end?
If we could hold it to the end, is that all right?
That's fine.
Okay, great, because then we can open it up to any and all for all of us who will be up here. And so, just before I get going, there was a sign-up sheet out there. If you're interested in more information about this program, if you're interested in getting that Home Energy Squad assessment scheduled, or if you're interested in getting a solar site assessment performed by the True North team, there are check boxes, again, beside your name. We just need either your phone number or email address, hopefully all of it. So with that, I'll just get going by starting off with, why are we here? I think the central idea is everyone's interested in solar. Are there any business owners out here tonight? Okay, so it just helps me in thinking about it in terms of how I discuss this. So, what I'm going to be briefly going over is I'm going to be talking about how solar works in general. I'm going to be talking about the value proposition that's associated with solar ownership, as well as how does our unique MREA group buy program work, and how does it save you or the program participants money by signing up through the program and buying something you're already probably inclined to do, and how to participate in it. I'll be going through those steps as we go through this presentation, and then really that how to get started, signing up, letting us know that we can reach out to you after this solar power hour. So starting off with the Midwest Renewable Energy Association is a nonprofit. We've been around since 1990. We started in Custer, Wisconsin, and we've expanded into the Twin Cities Metro, as well as having an office in Milwaukee. The things that we do are we work to promote renewable energy, energy efficiency, and sustainable living through demonstration, education, and events like we're doing tonight. We have a huge annual energy fair in Custer, Wisconsin that has over 200 exhibitors and 200 workshops happening over a weekend in typically the middle of June. But we also do training, and we also do outreach through our group buy programs. We have a lot of these programs going on concurrently right now, and we'll be kind of highlighting those a little bit as we go on. So, what is the group buy? Well, it's in short, it's going to be a win-win for everyone who participates, who's inclined or interested in going solar or owning solar on your home or your business, as was mentioned. Like it shows, we currently have 8 of these programs going on throughout the Midwest. And so we've been active in Wisconsin, Illinois, and Iowa. And in those 8 programs so far, we've been able to get commitments to over close to 2.5 megawatts of solar, which is a significant amount. We'll be going a little bit more into what that size looks like. But what you can see is it's over 350 homes or businesses, and that average system size is about 6.7 kW. And I'll be describing that a little bit later. Our largest program this summer is the one that we have at Johnson County in Iowa, and it's nearly 200 homes, or 182 as of today, have signed up through a program similar to Solar Twin Cities. And that's over 1.1 megawatts of solar being done in one community in one summer. And that's pretty dramatic. So far in our program, because we are newer in Minnesota, and this is the first group buy we've ever done, we're working up. We've got 3 homeowners that have signed up in the past several weeks. We've got 21 kilowatts of solar being installed, and that average system is about 7 kW. Bob is in the back here, who recently decided to go solar, and that's right around the system size that you have, if I'm correct. And so, this program really is for homeowners, but it can also be for businesses and nonprofits. What it offers in terms of answering some important questions for the homeowners, it starts with a no cost, no obligation solar site assessment, and that is coordinated and delivered by True North Solar, our program partner. What they do is, if you decide to move forward, they're going to properly design and install that system for you. And as was mentioned earlier, Center for Energy and Environment has some financing programs, but there's other ways of accessing the capital that's needed for investment in solar. We want to make sure that if you have financing needs, we're putting you in contact with Center for Energy and Environment, or the Minnesota Housing and Finance Agency, or your local bank through a HELOC or something. This program's kind of premised on the idea that it's a time frame program. So these costs, or the cost savings, are based on making a decision before October 31st. So that's one of the constraints of the program. But what it does is it kind of helps the contractor know how many projects they're going to have and how they're going to deliver those. And it kind of focuses the ability for all of us to manage, not having a projected unending, sales, which I think is pretty typical of a lot of business in that sense. It's really important, I think, to start with from the perspective of the Midwest Renewable Energy Association. What we've done that is unique to our group buy program is we issue a request for a proposal from local contractors. And then we have an advisory committee that includes members of city staff, local nonprofits that are involved in the solar industry, and some businesses. If I'm not mistaken, Jen, were you on our evaluation committee or advisory committee? Okay, but there were a couple others. Behind you, there were a couple of staff members from some communities who participated in this advisory committee. What we were looking for in selecting a contractor are the important things. Do they have quality experience here locally? Do they have the capacity to deliver on the number of projects that get signed up through this program, as well as doing the business that they would typically do. Do they have good product selection? In our program, we have 3 different types of modules that you can select from, ranging from the standard Hanwha. There's an LG, which is a higher efficiency. And then if you're interested in American made, there's also a product line that you can select for that. Warranties are really important. One of the things that we liked about True North Solar is solar panels typically have a 25-year warranty, but the inverter, which is an integral component of the system, typically have a 10 or a 15-year. Well, True North Solar offers a 25-year coverage on that. So the system you buy is going to be warranted for the full 25 years, which gives you kind of peace of mind that, you know, the cost you're going into is the cost you're going to be able to, you know, be assured is going to be working for the next 25 years. And then lastly, you know, cost is important. We were able to, through this negotiation process, come to an agreement on an installed turnkey cost per watt with a couple exceptions. So I'm going to have Victoria come up and introduce the True North team, tell you a little bit about them, and then the next she'll tell you kind of what their process is. So,
Absolutely. Hi, good evening. So my name is Victoria Barlow, and I work with True North Solar, and I have the honor of working with the owner of True North Solar, Marty Morrud, whose background is in engineering. And he put in a system for his very first time about 10 years ago for a family member while he was still a working engineer. And when he was up on the roof doing this work, it struck him what he was actually doing. And he was installing the ability for this homeowner to create their own energy. And it wasn't a difficult thing. It was just something that wasn't as common. Some people had been doing this in the 80s, Don, and were trendsetters. But now that the cost of panels have come way down and the cost of installation has come way down, Marty was of the mind that if we just let people know how accessible this is, you know, not to mention that Xcel Energy has these rewards that they pay you for the solar that you produce, as well as there's a federal solar tax credit that everybody gets, you know, off the top. And so there are a lot of cost incentives and savings to doing solar. And like way back when, you know, very few people had refrigerators, and there was the guy out at the state fair telling people, well, you don't have to have an iceman come to your house. There's this machine that can keep your food cold for you. It just took a few people in the neighborhood to do this, and pretty soon people understood the wisdom of having a refrigerator, and now, gosh darn it, everyone has one, you know. And same with solar. It's just a machine that's on your rooftop that you can make your own energy and your own electricity from and save money doing it, you know, and having that peace of mind as to its energy from sunlight. You know, it's so pure. So Marty Morrud, the owner of True North Solar, brings this integrity to his business, and he does pay for education, further education for employees. He is just a guy that's very easygoing and honest as the day is long and hardworking, and these are the people that he employs, and this is the mission and the attitude that exudes from when you work with True North Solar. They're going to make sure that your needs are met. So if you let us come out and do a free assessment for you for your property, you know, we're going to look up your house right away on Google Maps, right? We're going to see how many trees you have, or if no trees. We're going to look at how much roof line you have. Is it south facing? We're going to get some information just on, we can do this these days, you know, technology is our friend. And then we'll ask you, you know, how many kilowatt hours you use a year for electricity. We're going to kind of want to know how many panels should we put on your rooftop to make enough electricity to offset what you're already using. You know, maybe you have an electric car in your future. You know, we might want to see how many extra panels you might need to cover powering up that electric car. You know, we get a lot of this these days. And so then we'll come out and we'll have that quote, quote, kitchen table conversation. You know, we'll bring the cookies. Thank you, Jen, for bringing the cookies. Oh, but the idea is we'll sit and chat with you. What's most important? Is it saving money? Is it the environment? Is it, because you want your home to be more valuable, because resale of homes with solar on your rooftop actually is at a higher amount, and there are statistics as to how much more you can sell your house for if you have solar on the rooftop. So we get to know you and what your why your heart is in solar, why you want to do this thing. And it might be a combination of these things, because you actually will be able to meet several of those goals in putting solar on your rooftop. And so the assessment, again, is a very easy, we work according to your schedule. We have lovely people who will design very easily on their CAD programs what your rooftop would look like with solar panels. Don, in a little bit later, will pop up here and tell you about his Woodbury home that now has solar on it, and then he liked what his solar panels look like on his house. And if that's the aesthetic is important, there are nice looking solar panels that we can put on the rooftop, street appeal. So we really like to work with you and get to know you, and that's the integrity that we bring to the table. Plus, we bring a lot of geekiness, which isn't a bad thing. There are some things where you can look on your phone or on your iPad and you can see exactly what each panel is producing at any given moment. I mean, that's geeky, cool stuff, and if you like solar, you might like some of these things, and we'll show you how that's included and how to run those. So thank you for your time, and we'll be around later for questions. Okay.
And so, in brief, this is kind of what they do. They go through these steps, that no-cost assessment, that reviewing that proposal, designing the system. The other thing that she didn't mention is they do all the submitting of the permits. They help you with the incentives to make sure that you're getting those. And of course, they work with the utility provider to get that system brought online, interconnected, and make sure that that system is operating well. So, just some of the basics of solar. Just currently, in the last quarter across the US, 557 megawatts of solar power have been installed. And I'm not sure that many know that last quarter, Minnesota had 7th greatest installation in the residential market across the US. And that's happened in part because some of the policies here in Minnesota are favorable to people who are interested in owning solar. And like Victoria was mentioning, solar has been studied now in a number of states, and that's been done by the Lawrence Berkeley National Laboratory and the National Renewable Energy Laboratory. And what they're showing is, homes are selling faster, and they're selling for a premium. And the reason is because they provide value and they can lower the cost of energy for that next buyer. And that's important. So how does it work? Well, once you put that panel up on your roof, it's collecting the photons from the sun, and then that's going through something called an inverter. And that is going to be changing DC current or direct current into alternating current, and that's the type of electricity that you're using in your home. You use it on site if it's being produced, or it goes onto the transmission and distribution of the utility provider through your utility meter. And it goes backwards at times because you're not consuming it, and we'll be showing some graphs that kind of represent that. The other, the idea that was mentioned, that Victoria mentioned, is the reporting and monitoring. This tool called the inverter, which again converts that energy into usable energy, does a couple really important other things. It does system reporting and diagnostics. It provides logging of that energy production over time, which is useful in kind of comparing what it says it's produced versus what your utility bill says is being produced and provided back onto the network in terms of net metering. And then based on the type of, technology you have, you can use everything from your home computer to your iPad to even your phone to be able to see how much energy that system is producing at any given time. It can also be used as a means of showing that it's not working and there's a reason to call True North and find out, is there a issue that needs resolution? So it does a few really important things. The inverter company that True North is using is called Solar Edge. And one of the reasons they're using that is, of course, again, it's high quality and it provides a lot of this useful real-time information as well as historical information. So thinking about solar ownership, there's some fundamentals in terms of location and siting. You're really trying to get that ideal window of sunlight between 9 a.m. and 3 p.m. To the extent that you can avoid shading, that's beneficial. Sometimes shading is outright detrimental and prevents a system from really being cost effective or useful. The other thing is inappropriate situations. People may or may not know that you can go east-west orientation. North is not typically anything that anyone's going to do, but there's a proposal that I've seen that True North recently did where the homeowner decided to have 3 sides of the roof actually having solar installed. They made that choice because of it met their metrics of what were important, and which I'm sure included energy production and that cost over the time horizon. So those are some of the more important things to do, and that's where the site assessment really gives you an understanding of what the solar potential is of your home. So I'd encourage you, if you're thinking, that's the first real step that's going to allow you to know whether or not you're in a good position of benefiting from solar. The most often or most common type of solar installation is going to be that roof. And you're looking again for good sun access. You want to be considering the age of the roof because this is a 25-year asset. You want to make sure that that roof is kind of in line with not having to pull that system down, mid-life cycle. Although that is possible, and it takes some work, of course, there's labor involved in that, but that is something that can be done. But to the extent that you can align those two, that's beneficial in terms of cost savings over the life of the asset itself. Snow, of course, while it's on the panels, is going to reduce sunlight, although I would say that how solar is analyzed in terms of its production, all of those factors are taking into account in terms of discounting energy potential versus what you would see in August versus what you're going to see in December. And that's based on meteorological data and history of what your weather is like locally. And then the other thing is the importance of a good installation, because wind load and wind shear, of an improperly system can pull off the roof if not done properly. So it's, again, really important to work with a contractor that installs your system properly the first time so that you get the benefit of that system without problems down the line. I'll just make a quick note for those who don't have access to the roof, but do have a lot of land. Ground mounting is another opportunity that can be done. Typically, it's just using, pole mounted to put that into the ground, and then you have a couple other benefits of it's easier to clean. Rain typically is going to do what is needed in terms of washing off those panels and keeping them functioning at peak efficiency. The other thing is most systems are utility connected. That means that there's no battery backup, and it's the utility provider is supplying you with the electricity when the system is not working. And we all know that the sun's not always shining, but we're often or always using energy. So a utility-connected system is the type that's most often used. That final bullet there is when the utility grid is not working, your system is not working. That's a safety factor. And that also comes into play is if there is an emergency and the firemen and women need to show up, they're going to do a kill switch on that system so that they can go up on your roof and be safe in knowing that they're not going to receive any unexpected electrical discharge from that system. So this idea of net metering, just by show of hands, how many people kind of know what that is intuitively? So a couple. So what it basically is thinking about the energy that your system is producing and the energy that you're already consuming. There's a cost associated with that. Through net metering, through your utility provider, every kilowatt hour that your system produces is going to have the same economic value of those kilowatt hours that you're buying from the utility. So that energy, the top image kind of represents the sunlight during the middle of the day. Most people consume energy kind of in the morning, they go to work, and then it kind of peaks in the evening for a few hours. And those are at different times of the day when the sun's typically generating energy. So when you're off at work, that energy is going back into the utility transmission and distribution grid, and they're giving you a net metered rate equal to what you would normally be buying that power for. The bottom image is taken right out of a proposal that was provided by True North, and it's got 3 different colors there, and those are looking month by month. And so the orange represents the energy that you're typically buying after the installation. And then that blue is the energy that's being produced and consumed by your house after that system's installed. And then some of that that's in excess is the stuff that's going back into the grid that you're getting that net metering value for. The utility is essentially accounting for that through that meter. And like I said, because of the inverter's data logging characteristics, you could choose to look at those and make sure they align. I don't see a lot of incentive to try to have your utility game the system. It would probably be an error more than it would be intentional. But you have that peace of mind of knowing that every kilowatt hour that your system is producing is being tracked and monitored for your purposes after. So just kind of in summary, those things to think about before I start to go into how our group buy program works is, do you have good solar access? Is your property relatively free of shade? Are you in need of a roof? Probably a good time if you want to go solar to be making those investments in kind of conjunction. Is it structurally sound? That could be everything from, it's an older house and maybe there is some interior repairs that are necessary. Those would be important things to know before you make this investment, because again, you don't want to have to take it down if you don't need to. And then like Terry was saying, is your house generally energy efficient? Those are kind of the things that I would think about before making this decision. And so then beyond that, this slide kind of represents 3 words that I've bantied about a little bit, but I think merit kind of focused attention on them for a moment. One of them is a watt, and that's a unit of power. So each of the panels that are sold through this program are 320 watts. It's also, in terms of our group buy program, a cost multiplier. So it's a turnkey installation per watt that you put onto your roof. And that base price is $3.27 per watt. There are a couple exemptions or adders to this program. If you needed a new electrical panel, there's an additional cost to that. If you are going to do some ground mounting and it's going to have a long trenching to get to that, there would be an additional cost per foot. Other than that, this program is really turnkey to $3.27 for that base model, a little bit higher for either the high efficiency LG or the the US made Mission product. The other thing is a kilowatt hour. So essentially in the simplest terms, it's still power. And number two, it's just multiplying 1,000 watts and saying kilowatt instead of 1,000 watts. But it's also the way we think of, or designers think of, and as well, how does our program work? That multiplier effect. So if you were to put 18 modules or 18 panels on your roof and they're 320 watts per panel, that system is 5.8 kilowatt hours or 5,800 watts. The last one is a kilowatt hour, and that's a concept of energy. So that's basically power times times. So if you are consuming 1,000 watts or producing, in this case with solar, 1,000 watts in an hour, that's a kilowatt hour. And that's also important in terms of thinking about the utility bill that you're paying now. You're paid, or you're paying the utility in kilowatt hours. And roughly on average in the Twin Cities Metro with Excel, that's about 13.5 cents. During the winter, it's a little bit lower. During the summer, it's a little bit higher. And so in terms of thinking about that kilowatt hour, it's power times times. And that's helpful as I go on to a couple of more, and I'd be happy to answer, or we will be happy to answer any of those questions when we're done here. I really do want to touch on a couple incentives. So now I'm starting to go into what are the things that are important that are going to help lower the cost of this system. And there are a couple really compelling incentives that are available. Right now, there's a federal investment tax credit of 30% of the total system cost. What that means is once the system's installed, if you decide to go forward and install a system, you're going to make the decision to buy it in 2018, but you're going to have it likely installed in 2019 just because of the winter. So in 2019, the 2018 taxes, you could take advantage of this 30% tax credit. Of course, you have to have that liability to be able to access that tax credit. But 30% of, a dollar is 30 cents. 30% of $20,000 is, $6,000. So it's a pretty significant savings that you get through the federal tax credit. The other really important thing that we have here in Excel territory is what's called the solar rewards. Now that is a production-based incentive that is 8 cents per kilowatt for 10 years, up to a system size of 40 kW. 40 kW system is typically going to be something that goes into a business. So any homeowner is going to be able to benefit fully from this. And what does production-based incentive mean? It means that at the end of the year, every kilowatt hour that your system produced, you're going to receive a credit or a payment from Excel, that kilowatt total of production times 8 cents for 10 years. And it typically shows up in your bill as a credit in January or February of the following year. True North Solar will help set you up and make sure that you're benefiting from that incentive. And there is discussion, and I don't mean this to be taken the wrong way, but the industry and Excel are talking that they may lower that rate possibly down to 6 cents per kilowatt beginning next year. So it's kind of important just to know that that may be the case, and you can check with your utility provider to be sure if that's important. But we are hearing that that's what they're thinking. So now I want to kind of go through an example, and after this, I have some proposals from True North Solar. We can hand those around and you could look at them. But here's kind of a model example of a system that was done outside of our group buy program. So the cost that they offer this homeowner was $3.37. Again, our base price is $3.27. So the program starts off with a 10-cent savings. This homeowner benefited from that federal tax credit of, nearing $6,300 in year one in their taxes. And then over the course of the next 10 years, that homeowner is going to save an additional $6,000 or roughly $600 a year, making the net cost of this system about $8,650. It shows how much in terms of what the annual production in terms of kilowatt hours are. But what that translates into is taking their annual utility bill from about $1,160 down to about $273. And 273 minus the 600 they get at the end of the year, it's now an economic driver. This system with those incentives still takes about 10 years to pay back. But the important thing to think about is you're going to continue to buy energy for the life of owning that home. So you're going to keep paying the utility provider, whether or not you have a system or not. After the system is paid off, you're now starting to bank money based on the energy production value of this system. And it's a hedge on what you're going to pay the utility provider. Every year, we all see our utility bills go up, 3 to 4% a year. This is kind of an economic hedge on that future, that you are going to buy that power if you want to keep the lights on and the air conditioning and the dishwasher. And so thinking about it, this system, and I encourage you to look at the proposals, the pro forma or the cash flow shows, these systems can generate economic benefits in the $15,000, $25,000, $30,000 over the life of that asset. And that's even taking into account the degradation of the system and that increased cost of energy over time. So what I've done with this slide, and this is now the important thing when we're talking about a group buy program. So that's really kind of hopefully what you're here to learn about. How it works is we have different milestones at different levels of kilowatts. And so our first one is at 50 kW. And then we have another one at 100 kW and 200 kW. And what that roughly translates to is the average is about 7 kW. I use this example here of 6, but that means that if 9 homeowners across the Twin Cities metro sign up for this program, we will have hit our first milestone of 50 kW. What that translates to is a 10-cent savings for everyone. So you buy in at a certain price, you're going to get a rebate for 10 cents times the number of watts that you bought through this program. So that's kind of an important metric to think about. This program, importantly, runs across 7 counties in the Twin Cities metro. I'm going to be in Minnetonka tomorrow. I'm going to be in, Minneapolis in a couple of weeks. I'm going to be in White Bear. I'm going to be in Roseville. We are doing 15 of these events across the Twin Cities metro. But what the group buy concept is as more people choose to participate or choose to buy solar and happen to participate in this program, you might all benefit with a rebate check coming back through the program just by virtue of you choosing to buy through this program versus going out and getting a quote directly from True North or any other contractor, you're going to get the added value. What that roughly translates into, and this tries to represent a couple things. I'm going to be, how I structured this is the first 3% over on the right is that savings from that 10 cents. Like if you bought a system from True North outside of this program, it's probably going to be about 337 watt. If you buy it inside of this program, you're already saving 10 cents. So that's that first 3% on that side. You can save an additional 12% roughly off a system if we collectively achieve through this program that milestone of 200 kW. That's about 36 homes roughly, 36, 38, 35, somewhere in that range, based on the average system size. The other portions up there are, you've got your 30% tax credit off the top, and then that solar rewards program roughly is about 25, 26%. It comes in just around 26%. So, you know, at most, you're already off the top outside of this program, being able to leverage incentives to buy down the system cost of roughly 56% of the system. This program has a capacity of taking off another 15%. The balance is, again, what you would be net out of, you know, paying for. And so how that works is, again, as we collectively meet the milestones, everyone that had already locked into a price is going to be able to save 10%, 10 cents when we hit 50 kW. If the program hits 100 kW, now it's going to be a 20-cent rebate. And if we hit that 200 kW, it's going to be a 30-cent reduction. Additionally, if the system is over 10 kW, there's another 10 cents that's taken off that base price. So again, 327 starts off at 317, just due to the system size and True North's ability to pass through savings to you. Does that generally make sense? This is the important part of our program. And so, you know, I'm nearing the end, and this is where financing of an asset like this may come into play as a necessity. It's probably the third or fourth most expensive asset that a homeowner invests in, behind the, you know, the house, the education, and the car. You know, this is an investment, but it's a 25-year investment. It doesn't have a lot of moving parts. So once it's up there and working, and you have a 25-year warranty, I'm a finance guy, so I think of it in terms of levelized cost over the life cycle of the asset. And when you look at it in that terms, it becomes basically a hedge on future costs that you know you're going to spend. It lowers your operational, you know, the utility bill that you're going to be paying every year. That money can be used to pay down the financing if that's necessary. And again, I have the same system with financing and without. So that being said, Center for Energy and Environment has, through Jim's programs, a solar program that's specifically geared towards solar. And you could talk to him. There's information out on the table, out at the front. The Minnesota Finance and Housing Agency also has a fix-up program, and they offer both secured and unsecured loans. And CEO also partners in that program as well. When I was at the Department of Commerce, I helped create one of those programs, the unsecured loan program. And then there's, of course, going and getting a HELOC or working with your local bank or paying cash. You know, I'm not necessarily sure where you are in that need, but I think it's really important that, you know, the important things are knowing why you want to do it, knowing that you're working with a reliable contractor, and knowing that if you need financing before you leave here, knowing that there are some resources available to assist you with some really reasonable rates, and I think it's like 4.9.
That's the highest, is 4.99.
Yeah, so very competitive rates. And we don't have to touch on the commercial because there's no one here that's interested in that. So I'm just going to end and kind of go through these steps, and then I want to open it up to any questions. We'll bring up ourselves. Um, Dan is also a recent homeowner that chose to go and invest in solar. So we could either have him spend a minute and say why he did it, and then open it up to questions. But how this process works, the first most important thing is letting us know that you're interested so that we can reach out to you tomorrow and have that process started. The next thing that we would do is, so there was a sign-up sheet back here. Again, there were 3 check boxes. One, if you just wanted to know information about the program. If you're interested in a home energy squad assessment for your home, or if you want a solar site assessment from True North Solar. After that's done, they're going to reach out to you and they're going to be asking to look at, get access to 12 months of utility bills because they want to be able to look at how much you're consuming and then how does that relate to the system size so that you can align those two. With the Excel Solar Rewards program, there is a 120% cap, so you can't exceed 120% of what you're consuming on a 12-year rolling average. The next thing that they would do is once they're done with that site assessment, after a few days, they're going to contact you, and they're going to want to be able to sit down at that kitchen table that Victoria was talking about and go through that 7-page proposal, showing you kind of what equipment they're proposing, where it's kind of roughly located on your roof, going through the incentives with you in more detail, and assisting you in answering any of those questions or deciding that you want to kind of tweak that proposal to fit your needs. I think I'll just take this moment of saying, when Victoria mentioned Marty Marood at the beginning, 10 years ago when he was installing that first system, I wasn't involved in the selection of True North as an employee of MRE, but I was in the class with him 9 years ago before True North was a company. And it was 14 weeks long, it was 8 hours a day, it was 5 days a week. I got to know him and I got to know that integrity that really came through in why he was going into that industry. And I've watched him show up at Department of Commerce meetings and be engaged in solar policy. I see him at conferences. So when they were selected and I was asked to take over this program, it was a really easy, like, I know when I'm in front of you that if you work with that team, you're probably going to walk out very happy because they're going to provide you quality, they're going to provide you straight answers, they're going to do it on time, and they're going to try to make you satisfied with that final product. So with that, it's kind of the shameless plug for our organization. We are a nonprofit. Again, if this interests you and you want to find out more, I would encourage you to go to our website. Outside, there is a $10 off coupon to become a member. That'll give you information to our program. Or you could reach out to Gina at ginam.at midwestrenew.org. And with that, maybe I could open up, or do you want to come up and just spend a minute or just speak from back there?
I'll speak, that's easy. I like speaking back here. Anyway, my story actually almost starts even before I was born because I was a late child of older parents who lived through the Depression. So I was kind of raised with this use your resources wisely mentality. I had to laugh. This note is I wrote my notes on the back of an insert from a Staples rebate. That's how it was ingrained with that used thing. But we're generally conservative financially. If you look at our house on Zillow, you'll discover we're both below the 55125 and the Woodbury averages from those little lines. So we're not rich, we are conservative, we drive an Accord, we don't drive a Prius, you know? So we do what makes sense for our situation. And combined with my background in that, I had an interest in architecture from the time when I was very young. So I started learning about passive solar principles back in the early 80s and wanted to, so we built a passive solar house in Nebraska in 1982, which it's just using the right combination of things very, very wisely. And it doesn't become net zero, but it gets fairly close if you do it just right. So then I took a job up here in 1986, and we started shopping for a house, kind of focused on Woodbury. Ultimately, we did not find what we wanted for the price we felt like we could afford, so we said, let's build it. So we took the passive principle, so we made it as efficient a house as we could. And, you know, the bedrooms on the north, a lot of the glass and living spaces on the south. We did do an airlock entry, which is not typical, so our entry hall has a door that goes on to the stairway. That's a little different, but basically, it's a very, very typical house. And if you ever want to look and see what we installed, just like park at the Episcopal Church or park at Royal Oaks Elementary, just walk the bike path. You'll see it on the corner of Foxborough and Queens. You'll see what the installation looks like and how clean it can look. Anyway, we kind of put solar on the back burner. We never, you know, we still liked it, but for a long time it seemed too expensive and not a good idea. Then we came to a power hour actually here
A couple of years ago.
at City Hall, and they had the Made in Minnesota program, which was a really good incentive, especially back in 2016 when we signed up. And it was actually a lottery-based thing. You had to sign up and take a chance of getting it. We weren't even in the first group. We were actually on a wait list, but ultimately we did get it. And it just made sense to us. The numbers worked. And so we selected a contractor. Unfortunately, we selected Able Energy. I don't know if any of you have read the story about Able Energy, but basically, through some bad management decisions that kind of threw the company in the ground. Collected down payments, did little or nothing for a lot of other customers, like 100 plus customers that got hurt by that. And we were one of them. But I don't see that as being a solar industry thing. I see that as being, it can happen in any business, just not managed well. So don't blame that solar for that. But anyway, so we spent 21 months, and in those 21 months that they were holding our money, we did get racks on our roof. Of course, we couldn't just walk away from it. They had done a little bit, and we either had to rip the racks off or finish it with somebody. So at that point, we started shopping for contractors, and there were three names that kind of came up. And True North was one of them, that had the capacity to absorb Able customers, because we weren't obviously the only Able customer that needed to finish. So anyway, the high bidder said, well, you sign with us and we'll figure out how much we're going to credit you for what has already been done in your house. This trust me thing, thanks but no thanks. And actually, True North was not the lowest bidder. There were several hundred dollars higher than the lowest bidder. Through my geekiness and Marty's geekiness, we just kind of connected. I felt like True North did the job. And they have done the job. They, you know, 21 months with Able, 3 months, which is about what Marty said it would take. And we signed the contract on June 20th. And we are now generating electricity and selling that.
Thank you.
I don't know. Yeah, kind of the thing with the power hours, we shifted our mindset from why to why not. And that may be where you're at, that may not be where you're at tonight. But you know, it was not a geeky solar thing, but you're already here because you're interested in solar. It was the numbers worked for us. So that's how we made our decision. We're glad we did.
Thank you. So, questions? I know you had one earlier, so do you want to kick it off?
Well, it was just a general, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on it, but just had to go back with Terry and the experience. I'm just curious, older home versus newer home, what do you find? I'm just assuming older homes are probably less efficient than newer homes, but.
Yeah, you know, especially if it's, you know, built before 1970, then there's probably, you know, it's not insulated up to code, and so we're going to go up into your attic. We're going to check the wall insulation. We'll go down the basement and we'll just, give you some recommendations for next steps. But yeah, like they came to my house, which is 1907, and there's no wall insulation. There's a little bit up in the attic, but there's lots of opportunities for improvements. So.
Other questions? Oh,
Okay. I was told that I don't really have a lot of sunlight on my roof on my house, but maybe on my garage, which is like east-west facing. And then we also have like a shed that we just built. So I just don't know necessarily. I would like to do a site assessment. I did like call somebody a few years ago and they never really followed up with me. So I just want to know if, that would happen again.
Um, I think the simple answer is no. Um, it's really important that what we're offering is lived up to at its most fundamental. That no cost, no obligation site assessment, that's kind of baked into this program. So that's your direct answer. If you're interested, you're going to get that.
Yeah, like they just did the Google thing and they're just like, and they never responded.
Okay.
This is a comment on roof mounting. I believe Woodbury requires you to use the same angle, just with the standoff. I think they are against tilting it for a perfect angle. So just a
Yeah.
warning.
And then I'll come to you, sir.
18 panels. What's the size of these panels and how can I get 18 on my house?
They are, I'm forgetting it, they're about 3x5, roughly 3x5, 3x5.
39.43 by 65 point something on mine.
Okay. Yeah, and I'd be happy to get you that answer offline or follow up in the email. Yeah.
I was at the state fair and there was a solar people there and they had on the computer, they could look at how much sunlight your roof gave. And unfortunately mine, it's like yours, didn't have that much sunlight. Should I just say, okay, forget it? I have another question though too.
Yeah. What he's referring to is the solar suitability app that was developed by the Department of Commerce and the University of Minnesota. There's two things that I would say about that program. One is, the costs are high, but I've also noticed when I've looked at data through that tool and then looked at specific site assessments, I have seen generally higher numbers when you get a professionally done site assessment than that tool. I'm not going to say that that's the case in yours, but in the multitude of examples that I have looked at, they're usually a little bit higher than what that app demonstrates. And then, yeah.
The other question would be if you can't do it, do you have programs to buy into a solar farm? And my third question is, I have solar panels on my house in California, and I didn't pay anything for them. They sold them to, it was just a solar city they put them on, and they just sold them to some people that could use the depreciation. And so they just depreciate them over the year or everything, and I just pay it. I was paying $42 a month for electricity, and they put enough panels on that I would always pay $42 a month for electricity.
Um, So the idea of community solar gardens is the one thing that you were mentioning. That's not what our program is offering. There are a number of community solar gardens out there. If I'm not mistaken, they're all subscribed to at this point, including Excel Energies, which is called Community Solar. And I'm a subscriber of that because that's the first step that I wanted to do. So those who aren't familiar with community solar gardens, it is that way of buying power through a third party. The other, we don't have a lot of solar city power purchase agreement structures in Minnesota in the residential space at this time. So this program really is for those who are interested in direct solar ownership. That may come, but at this time, it's not really a marketable product that anyone's offering.
Could I add something?
Yeah.
I was just going to add too that we do put solar panels on garages.
Yeah.
And we do have extensions and things that can be done. And what I would ask is, was all of the usable space and rooftop analyzed when they used that LiDAR program to look at your property? That when we assess it, you know, we may have some ideas for some other locations of panels
Yeah.
on your property. And do you have to, it's maybe philosophical, but do you have to do 100 or 120% of your electrical use? Would 80% be fine if you're covering 80% of your electrical use with solar? Is that valid for you? And then when we do an assessment, we'll run the numbers. It's like an Excel spreadsheet. And we'll show you all of your incentives on the get-go, you know, to the next 10 years. We'll show you, is your payback 8 years? Is it 9 years? Is it 10 years? And so there are a couple of different ways to look at that.
So I missed the beginning of the program. I just went,
Yeah.
I came up here from Mendota Heights. Is it available throughout the metro area?
Yes. Yeah. It's through a 7-county structure that we have. So there's a sign-in sheet out front. If you want to sign up, give us your phone number and information. You know, their team will be reaching out to you within a day or so. You're all, if you signed up and gave me your email address, you're all going to receive one from me tomorrow. Thanking you for being here. And then again, passing on information and letting you know, just reminding you, if you do sign up, get a proposal and have follow-up questions about what you receive. I've been in this industry for a number of years. I'm really passionate about what it offers, and I have a finance background. So if you want to talk numbers, I'm happy to do that.
Yeah, I guess I have 2 questions. One, and I think the gentleman in the back referred to it, I believe I'm correct in my memory that Excel had a limit to prior versions of solar rewards. They had a lottery, and if you didn't get in, you didn't get a benefit. This program, does it have a finite number?
Last I checked, which was maybe a week ago, there were 6.4 million kilowatt hours of incentive remaining. Essentially, you know, we are confident that anyone that comes through this program before October 31st is going to be eligible for being able to benefit from that. It is a lottery, but what they've done over the past couple of years is they've increased the amount of money that they put into that program, in part due to the success of the program in how they've structured it. Does it- Yep, and the Made in Minnesota program no longer exists, so they've kind of moved that money into solar rewards. And so that's the other reason that number is very, very.
I was at the Mercedes annual meeting last week, and Excel was there talking. They were right on pace to be able to get through the year. They were about 2/3 subscribed, I think. You know, got about 2/3 year through the year. But yeah, if you're there through October 31st, like you said, I don't think there'd be any issue. But
Yeah.
my question would be, does it have to be installed, or you just have to be signed up?
No, you just have to commit to it. And then you have a year to get it installed. So this is, are there other questions?
Just had one additional one. I don't think I need that. Am I correct? If it it than that, was it $3.27 average per kilowatt cost? Does that go down to 297?
Yeah, yeah. If we are successful in getting over 200 kilowatts of committed installations by October 31st, the price that you signed up for, you're going to receive a 30 cent per watt rebate. Um, and it's the way I understand how True North, and correct me, but you pay $1,000 down payment, and then there's another increment, and then another increment with progressive, construction. There are a couple other things, one other point, there are a couple other important things in terms of when the system is going to be installed. So capacity was one of those important things that we at the MRE look at. So we've made a commitment, or True North has made a commitment to us, that anyone that's signed up by October 31st is going to have a roof installation on their roof interconnected by April 30th of 2019. If it's ground mounted, it's going to be a month later because typically the frost issue. But, we wanted to make sure that you're going to get the benefit of the solar rewards incentive, but then also that system is going to be producing a lot of energy that first year as you go into your tax credit. And the last point of the tax credit is if you don't have all the liability in year one, it rolls over.
My contract was that way, $1,000 down.
Yeah.
And 50% of the remainder, then 40% then 10%.
Okay, great.
So do you get the tax benefit in 2018 taxes or is it 2019 when you actually pay most of it?
It would be in 2019's
I
taxes?
think it's the day you go live.
It's the day you go, yeah, it's when you go live, so it'd be the
So
2019.
you'd get the benefit when you pay your 2019 taxes.
Correct.
In 2020.
Yeah, that's why I have to kind of
Yeah,
think that
yeah.
backwards. Yeah. But it's still substantial.
Yeah.
Um,
And the tax credits start going down in 2020.
Yeah, that's a little ways off, that's why I kind of, but you're right, that incentive from the federal tax, from the federal government is going to go from 30% down to 26, down to 22, down to nothing. For commercial businesses, it's going to flatten out at 10%. But residential system owners, it's going to go away. But that's still a couple years off.
Winter in Minnesota, what kind of solar generation can you get during the winter months in Minnesota?
Well, it's going to be lower. How it's looked at is looking at, it gets a little bit complicated, but you're discounting a lot of sunlight during certain months of the year because the azimuth is going to be much lower, the sun's zenith. And so how it works is you're looking at peak producing hours of the day. So even though the sun is shining for 9 hours, you're only accounting for like 2.8 or 3.2 hours during January. Just in terms of how the math works out and kind of discounting because it's not really intense sunlight. And again, it's done over typical meteorological data that's 20 or 30 years of history. And then looking at that, looking at the angle of the sun, those are some of the things that I learned in that class that I was taking. But you could do that, but again, that would have to be a ground mounted, particularly in Woodbury where the flush mounting is necessary. And there's a cost of the mechanics associated with moving that electronically, or it's going to be They can do them weighted and put oil on each side, and it's a less costly. But again, for the typical homeowner, that's probably not going to be the most likely install.
Does Woodbury have regulations on whether you can do this or not?
City zoning is going to have some basic things. If you want to answer this one, if you know better.
This is being fed with the cable, so that's why we're trying to use the mic too. But we do have an alternative energy ordinance, and so, if you call our planning department, we can get that to you. And so we've never had an issue. We've, in the last, just in 2017, we had 20 installations on residential properties, and we didn't even really know that without looking at it. So we never have any issues with permits being accepted. If you do ground mount, then there are a little more restrictive, but we do have some ground mount systems in Woodbury, so.
And another piece to note is that through XL Energy, as you're producing more electricity than you'll ever use in the summertime, they just save that up for you as a credit for you to draw off of in the winter.
Yeah.
So they have that all figured out, so it evens out for you. And also solar panels actually work better in colder weather than they do in extreme hot weather, interestingly enough. It has to do with all of those photons and protons.
Do the panels deteriorate as they get older?
It's built into the warranty and it's built into the modeling. Yes, I think they model or they warranty about a 0.5% reduction, but last week, Jeff from the True North Solar team says what they see is about half of that reduction. But yeah, it goes down and everyone models about a 0.5% based on the particular panel that it's going to reduce. But they also warranty the 25-year warranty. There's a finite amount of 17 or 20% that it'll reduce that's allowed under warranty, and if it drops below that, you would get that product warrantied out.
It's 0.5% per year.
Yeah, degradation. And so everyone's modeling always accounts for that. And
Are there different levels of panels? Are some premium and some standard? And so what does True North do? What kind of panels do they do?
we have 3 different types in this program. There's the Hanwha, which is, are they the Korean? I think they're Korean. And then LG is the higher efficiency one. It's a few percent higher on efficiency. And then there's the Mission, which are American made. I can't recall what the pricing specifically is. I know it's like 327, 364 a watt for the LG, and then I think it's like 330 something for the Mission. But again, that would be a specific question that the True North team would be able to provide you comparative quotes in different models. And it's going to show different production based on those higher efficiencies if you choose the higher efficiency model.
Like if you have smaller space, you might want the higher efficiency ones. And it might be more cost effective to do the lower efficiency ones, which are less expensive because you have more space to put them on.
And I'm looking at the time. I'm happy to stick around, continue answering questions. We'd be happy to do that. But I don't want to, I want to respect your time. Are there, is there a question or two more, or do we have a couple more minutes? One more? One more. And then we can take it outside.
Okay, just wanted to know, our house faces more or less east and west. One's a little bit south facing and west. Does it have to face due south, or are there ways to do it with a flush mount if it faces more like west southwest or something?
Well, and we've done installations where we're putting panels on 3 sides of a house.
Okay.
So we're using the available space that
Okay.
you're willing to let us use.
All right.
And we would model that.
If you sell your house You sell your house, then the warranty is passed automatically to the new owner?
As is the production incentive.
Okay.
Mhm. And like I said, I'm going to move outside because I know Jen has to kind of close down this room. I'll be available out there. If any of you want to see those proposals that I was referring to, let me know. I'd be happy to show you one if you want to. And everyone, thank you for being here. Thanks for showing interest. Have a good evening.